Will the Sangha with the virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to lose suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-body.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmya sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently, may we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one. 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 Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Realm Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha, welcome back. We are at our lecture 206. My throat, I'm not sure why, maybe because most of the day I haven't been talking. Suddenly I just feel that there's something stuck in my throat. So I'm apologizing in advance because you might hear me trying to clear my throat. Okay, today we are going to move to kind of like a new topic. Is the next word in our sutra that we were covering. If you look at your screen, it says when a person is endangered by fire, by water, fire, knives, or poison, or finds himself on a steep cliff or in a dangerous place, or faces fierce elephants, lions, tigers, wolves, bears, poisonous snakes, scorpions, centipedes, millipedes, mosquitoes, gnats, and or other frightful things. If he can single-mindedly recollect, worship, and make offerings to that Buddha, he will be liberated from all those frightful things. Okay. You spend a few weeks looking at what it means to recollect the Buddha or to be mindful of the Buddha. Today, we are going to look at the word worship. Okay. Does anyone know what is worship in Sanskrit or in Chinese? Anyone knows or want to take a guess? Any takers? It's a very common word that you'll find in Buddhist circles, especially if you are a Theravada Buddhist. No? Okay. There you go. Gongyang, puja, puja. It means worship or offering, or basically any ritual or ceremony where offerings are made, or in the offerings themselves. Okay. I never knew that there was a standard, there's an official wording to worshipping the Buddha. And there are, how you say, various formulas or standards. For example, the 3 parts and the 7 part one. Okay, these are found mainly in Mahayana, I think, but also Theravada too, in the Pali Canon. Okay, let's look at the 3 part puja. Okay, so in Mahayana, there's a lot of our ceremonies that we do, the things that you do when you come to the temple. It's derived from what is known as the 3 part liturgy. What is it? Well, the first is repentance, the second is rejoicing, and the third is transference. Then there's a second variation, where the first two are the same, but the third one is requesting the Buddhas to turn the Dharma wheel. So it's always a variation of these 3. If you look at what happens in the temple, okay, and then from this 3 part, there is the 7 part, okay, and how you say, this 7 part is an evolution or expansion of the 3 parts. And I'm going to ask you a question and see if after I go through this, okay, you all get prepared for what, or you might already guess what question is this. Okay, so the first is respecting, or people think worshipping is bowing. Bowing is part of worshipping. So obeisance means bowing, reciting the 3 refuges, and praising the Buddha. That comes under number 1. Number 2 is making offerings. And offerings here, because it's the Mahayana, the offerings, I think Theravada too. Yeah, the offerings represent the purification of the 6 senses. So usually it's like there's food involved, there's incense, there's flowers, there's cloth, for at least of the first five senses. And then there's repentance, and then there's rejoicing or admiration. Admiration can be in the Buddha, and it can also be for the Sangha. And number 5 is requesting the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to teach the Dharma, to turn the Dharma wheel. Number 6, request that the Buddhas do not pass into Nirvana. What is passing into Nirvana mean? It means that, the Buddha has to go into Nirvana, but not to forsake us. That means don't forget about us. And number 7, to dedicate any merit from doing all this to the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Oh my throat. Okay, now this is my question. What does this sound like? This 7. Yes, Leven gets all the points today. It's similar to the 10 vows of Samantabhrada Bodhisattva that you can find in the Avatamsaka Sutra, which we recite every morning in the temple. And basically, this is what you do when you come to the temple. First, when you come in the temple, you bow, right? You worship, you pay your respects to the Buddha. But now, I hope we all know by now, externally, we are paying our respects to the Buddha. Internally, we are also paying respects to our Buddha nature. Okay. Number 2, we make praises to the Buddhas. When we, in a ceremony, we praise the Buddha. Number 3, we come to the temple, there's an opportunity to plant blessings by making offerings, any kind of offerings. You can offer flowers, you can offer a light, you can make a donation, you can volunteer, you can sweep the floor. Number 4, to repent and reform of karmic hindrances. That's if you join a ceremony, then you get to do that. Number 5, to support all merit and virtue. You can either from the liturgy, you read about all the amazing things that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have done, or you look around you and you see a lot of people are trying very hard in their practice, and then you rejoice in that. Oh, which brings me to, I have a story to tell you all. It's a long story, and it's related to the story from last week. Okay. And the story itself has a lot of teachings. So as we go through the, okay, I'll say all this when it's time for the story. And then 6, to request the turning of the Dharma wheel. That means always for the Dharma to be taught. That's outside as well as inside. That means inside you remind yourself to always read the sutras, always surround yourself, not just reading, but thinking, pondering. You don't wait to be spoon-fed. You go and search for the sutras, or you join our WhatsApp group, and every day you get a sutra delivered to your phone. How convenient is that? Okay. 7, request that the Buddhas remain in the world. Okay, so that the Buddhas don't forget us. But if we practice well, the Buddhas, you'll figure out pretty quickly that the Buddhas are always around us. Not just the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas as well. And all the not just the Maha Pusat, the great Bodhisattvas, but also the Bodhisattvas from the 7th ground and below. And then number 8, follow the Buddha's teachings. Number 9, constantly accord with all living beings. You come to the temple, you're not fighting, hopefully, with people. You practice patience and loving kindness. And number 10, after you have done all this, all right, provided you have the right intention. Okay, can someone tell me what is right intention again? Anyone? Because if you don't have right intention, you come to the temple, you do all this, you get a lot of blessings. But if you have right intention, you get merit on top of blessings. Okay, can anyone tell me at least one of the 3 things that form right intention? Anyone? No one? I think I've mentioned this many times, right? Right intention and merit. No, nobody? Oh my. Okay. First is loving kindness. All right, does that ring a bell? Okay, first is loving kindness. Second one is what? What comes after loving kindness? Anyone? Oh my God. Yeah, Peggy.
Oh, I was thinking equanimity.
Equanimity. No, before that. Before.
Compassion.
Yes. Good, Suiling. Okay. So Peggy gets half marks for trying. Suiling gets full marks for giving the right answer. So number 1 is loving kindness. Number 2, compassion. Number 3, okay, anyone? Number 3? Yes, Levan, you're right, compassion. Oh, no, good try. Altruistic joy, good try, but no.
Renunciation.
Yes, Suiling gets full marks. Renunciation. If you have these 3, okay, these 3 thoughts. Renunciation also includes giving, generosity. That means you lessen your desires. If you have these 3, then you're married. Then you can do number 10. You can transfer your merit and your virtue. And universally depends on how big your heart is. Okay, if everyone you meet becomes a recipient of your loving kindness and your compassion, then yes. Okay, but if it's reserved only for certain people, then you're not universally. You're maybe within your household or within the people that you like. You're not quite Mahayana yet. But as your heart grows, so shall your level of being in the Mahayana. Okay, now there are 4 aspects to worshipping, which is honor, respect, veneration, and praise. Okay, what is honoring? Puja also means honoring. So when you see the Buddha or you hear of the Buddha's qualities being spoken of, like for example, all the weeks we have spent being mindful of the Buddha, in our mind, we recognize that. Okay, we honor the Buddha in our mind, we respect them. He says, goes to meet them, accompanies them, bows before them, we join palms, and if they have withdrawn to a quiet place, one hastens to send them food, flowers, perfumes, precious gems, etc. Okay, why would a Buddha need like perfumes and precious gems? Well, again, that represents the how you say, it's not the offering itself. Okay, is that you offer your practice, your level of practice as well. But it also means that you support the Buddha's practice. And in many ways, one lauds their qualities of discipline, concentration, and wisdom. If the Buddha is not around, then it would be the Sangha or to any fellow Dharma brother or sister who's practicing. Then if they preach the Dharma, one accepts it with faith and one teaches it. So you listen to it, you memorize it, you make sure, if it's from the Buddha, yeah, no problem. But if it's from someone else, you make sure it tallies with the sutras and the Vinaya, the precepts, and then you teach. Teach doesn't mean preach. Only you can, through your conduct. There's actually, conduct is how you convert people, not through what you say, but the way you react to situations in life. And that is how you bring people along. If that's why the Buddha's life story, if you're like even Shufu, Elder Master Xin, you look at their life story, they are perfect examples of zero selfishness. They always do things to benefit others. They do what others cannot do. And that is the only way they can convince stubborn people like ourselves to say, this is a good teacher. I shall follow this teacher. Otherwise, we won't. Our ego gets in the way. So it's not easy to teach living beings. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it says these good physical, vocal, and mental actions constitute puja. Now, veneration. And then knowing that nobody surpasses the Buddha in virtue. The Buddha can do things other people cannot do. That's why they became. That's how they become a Buddha. And then feeling for them a reverential fear surpassing that which one experiences towards one's mother, father, mother, master, or princess. Serving them and respecting them. It means you kind of like you want their approval, I think. The fear is not like a fear. It's like you, not like fear how am I going to say this? It keeps you at your best. I think the outcome. Yeah, the outcome is that you always want to be at your best. Not because you're afraid of scolding or anything, but you feel that that's how you should be with people that you truly admire and respect and whose well-being matters a lot to you. And then so there's respect, which is being humble and fearful and esteeming their knowledge and virtues is foremost. And then there's praise, where you praise their qualities, you laud them sincerely, and you exalt them. In other words, mindfulness of the Buddha. Okay, now let's move on to, now from the Mahayana, we go a bit to the Theravada. This is a Theravada Sutra from the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, where the Buddha gives a very simple, straightforward teaching of what it means to worship the Buddha. So now we have the practices. We have the external practices, right? We have the four meanings of puja. We have Samantabhrada's, Samantabhrada Bodhisattva's conduct and vows. Now, in this part of the sutra, the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, which is a lovely sutra, everyone should read this sutra. It's about the last days of the Buddha. It's about the time before the Buddha entered Nirvana. So what happened? So the Buddha at that time, physically, he was old. And he was traveling with Venerable Ananda. And he came to the sal forest. And he wanted to rest. So he told Ananda, I said, please, Ananda, set up a cot for me between the twin sal trees with my head to the north. He was tired and he wanted to lie down. So that's what the Buddha did. The Buddha lied down, and when the Buddha lies down, he doesn't lie down like regular people. He lies down on his right side with his right hand under his head, his left leg on top of his right leg, and his body is curved a bit like a bow, like a bow and arrow bow. And he doesn't sleep. The Buddha, he rests, but he doesn't sleep. He doesn't lose mindfulness. Now, in the sutra, it describes it. Now, at that time, the twin sal trees were in full blossom with flowers out of season. It wasn't the season to bloom, but the flowers were there. They sprinkle and bestrewed to realize one's body in honor of the realized one. Okay, that's the word, in honor. And the flowers of the heavenly flame tree fell from the sky, and they too sprinkled and bestrewed the realized one's body in honor of the Buddha. And not only that, heavenly sandalwood powder fell from the sky, and it too sprinkled and bestrewed the realized one's body in honor of the realized one. Okay, heavenly music played in the sky. By whom? Well, the heavenly musicians. And then heavenly choirs, that means the devas, they sang from the heavens, they sang in honor of the realized one. Okay, what were they doing? Puja. They were worshipping the Buddha. Okay, now, the Buddha then told Ananda, he said, that's not the full extent of how the realized one is honored, respected, revered, venerated, and esteemed. Okay, look at how the Buddha uses the thesaurus of covering what worshipping means. Okay, Buddha says that's not it. That's not it. That's not all of it. Okay, there's more. So the Buddha says any monk or nun, or male or female lay practitioner who practices in line with the teachings, the Dharma, they practice properly, they live properly in line with the teachings. Okay, their lifestyle follows the teachings. These are the people who honor, respect, revere, venerate, and esteem the realized one with the highest honor. Okay, so it's not just outside that you do the practices. You have internally, okay, you have to follow the teachings. All right, so when next time you see worship the Buddha, you know what it means. There's an external. As we perform the external, we should not forget to do it internally as well. That's why there can be a transformation. If not, then we only get attached to the form. And then we think that just by participating in a ceremony, or ritual, or in make offerings, that they have an efficacious nature of their own, and that we are closer to birth and death. Well, you may have planted some blessings, but it has nothing to do with ending birth and death. Okay, why? Because at your mind ground, the level of your mind, there's no transformation happening. Okay, all right. I think now it is story time. Okay, before we go to the story, does anyone have anything you want to bring up? You want to share? You want to ask? No one? Okay. All right. This is from the Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra, part of it, or at least the beginning. And it starts off weird, but there's a reason. It says during the first Asamkhya, okay, Alex shared this with us before. When you become a Bodhisattva, okay, there are 3 eons or 3 Asamkhayas in your path as you progress towards Buddhahood. Okay, so in the first eon, or the first Asamkhaya, it is said that the Bodhisattva does not know if he will become a Buddha or not. And if I'm not mistaken, Alec, am I right? This is when the Bodhisattva is on the first ground, right?
He's on the first abiding ground.
First abiding ground. And then the second asamkaya is second ground, or is it third ground onwards to seventh ground?
I forget. I have to look it up.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So there's the second phase where the Bodhisattva, he knows that he will become a Buddha, but he does not dare proclaim, I shall be Buddha. He just knows. Why? Because in his heart, the vows that he makes, he knows, but he can't say for sure, or he doesn't dare say for sure. But in the third asamkaya, and if I'm not wrong, this is eight ground and above, they abide in emptiness already. They have ended birth and death. I'm not sure. That is.
Fashu,
Yeah.
the second, the first is the second one is to the seventh, and then the eighth onward. The third is 8 onwards.
Yeah. Right. Correct. Yeah.
The higher,
onwards, right?
Essentially, the higher stage you go, the longer it takes to go up to the next level.
Okay. Yeah. So if I'm not wrong, first asamkaya is first ground, and then second asamkaya is up to 7th ground, and then the third kalpa, third eon, is when you're 8th ground and above. That time you are Maha Bodhisattva. You're a great Bodhisattva. At that time, you have ended birth and death. You, in terms of how you say, you have no more rebirth anymore. And you definitely will not slide. And that is why the Bodhisattvas can confidently say that later he will become a Buddha. So our story is actually in the second asamkaya. It is about when the Buddha, as a Bodhisattva in his past life, he received the prediction of Buddhahood. Okay, now before we go there, if you want to know how long an asamkaya is, well, someone already asked Nagarjuna Bodhisattva. The answer is that asamkaya is a number so great that divine or human calculators cannot comprehend it. Actually, we can calculate, but you can't comprehend. Your mind cannot comprehend. Okay, so you look at your screen, right? 1 koti is 10 million. And then 10 million kotis is 1 nayuta, and that's 100 trillion. And then 10 million nayutas is 1 bimbara, and that's 1 sextillion. That's, I don't know how many zeros. You can go and count how many zeros. And then you times that by 10 million, you get 1 gata. All right, look at the number of zeros there. And then beyond the gata, even longer than that, is asamkaya. Okay, now it is said that if you want to imagine how long an eon is, it says that there's a mountain taller than Mount Sumeru, and Mount Sumeru is way taller than Mount Everest. Okay, but let's just imagine Mount Everest. Okay, we don't even have to go all the way to Mount Sumeru, because Mount Everest we can kind of still imagine. Or, actually it doesn't make any difference. Think of Mount Fuji. Okay, Mount Fuji, if you've ever been to Japan, or Mount Shasta, if you've been to California and you've seen Mount Shasta, just pick, or like the Cascades in Oregon, just pick one. Not Oregon, Washington State. Doesn't matter, just pick one tall mountain. All right. Now the Buddha says that mountain is made of iron. And you have someone, every 100 years, the person comes out and they have a handkerchief of the softest silk. All right, you take all the silk in the world, you compare them all, and you choose the softest one. And every 100 years, you come out and you just brush the handkerchief lightly on whatever mountain you choose. All right. And then 100 years later, you come out and you lightly brush the mountain again. The Buddha says that by the time you wear down the mountain, you sometimes you go to certain places like state parks or museums. They have this a piece of stone where water drips onto the stone, and it creates a bigger and bigger hole in the stone. And there's a sign there that says this is after like how many million years or after how many 100,000 years, I can't remember, that it takes for water, one drip of water to create that, to wear down the stone. So the Buddha says the amount of time it takes for the silk handkerchief to wear down that mountain or nothing, says that Asam Kaya is longer than that. All right. So that's why it defies the human mind. You just can't imagine how long it is. It's just, unimaginable. And that's how long the Bodhisattva courses through, never giving up his vows. Can you imagine that? Okay. So, says for Shakyamuni Buddha, his first Asamkaya, all right, from the time he became a Bodhisattva on the first ground, from the ancient Buddha Shakyamuni. So it started, there was another Buddha also named Shakyamuni until the Buddha Ratna Shikin. How long is that? We already know, one kalpa, all right? And then from then on, the Bodhisattva was free of all female birth, all right? And then in the second Asam Kaya period, the Buddha, after the Buddha Ratna Shikin, it was until the Buddha Dipankara. And that was when he received the prediction of Buddhahood. And that's where our story, that's the period of our story. So our story is actually a very, very old story. Okay. And you look at Shakyamuni Buddha, it was only then that he received the prediction for Buddhahood, after so long. But before that, all the practices that he made was really great already. And then from the third Asam Kaya for Shakyamuni Buddha, it was from the Buddha Dipankara to the Buddha Vipassin, which is the Buddha before Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay, all right. Now let's move to a story. Okay, so there are some variations of this story. Some of it has the names for the Buddha is different as well. In here, it is Mega. In some is Sumedha, and I think there's another name, I can't remember. I think there are 3 names the Buddha is referred to, but they're all the same person. Okay, and in some versions, the Buddha sees an old monk. He doesn't know that it's actually the Buddha Dipankara, and he spreads out his antelope loin skin that he's wearing onto the ground, because the ground it has mud or something, or to cover a hole. And it's not enough. So he spreads out his long matted hair as an ascetic for the monk to walk on, and then he receives a prediction. Well, this version is from the Mahavastu. The Mahavastu is kind of like an in-between the Theravada and Mahayana style. It was compiled from various sources. And if you have time to read, it's an awesome piece of work, because there's a lot of Dharma in there. Okay, so our story is taken from there. Okay, so it starts with a teacher who was master of the Vedas, and he knew all the like natural sciences and all that. And he had a lot of students. Okay, and 2 of them is Mega and Megadatta. All right. I won't tell you who Megadatta is, but you probably can guess from last week. So Mega and Megadatta were good friends. Okay, they were close friends. And they said that Mega, who is Shakyamuni Buddha in his past life, was clever, intelligent, thoughtful, and keen-witted. So that before long, he had learned all the hymns by heart. That means he had memorized the Vedas. Even now, if you look at in the Brahmin caste, for example, there are families that if they have many sons, one son will enter priesthood, and from a young age they memorize the scriptures. So when he had completed learning the Vedas, he left the Himalayas and he came down into the provinces. That means where all the people are. And he says, I shall go and seek the means to pay my master's fees. So he wanted to repay the kindness of his master. So he had his staff, his water pot, now people carry their water bottle with them. Well, so did he. His sunshade, his sandals, and his bathing mantle, so fully equipped for traveling. And he said that everywhere he went, okay, the place always became free of affliction and distress. That means he brought calm to everywhere that he went due to his influence. Yeah. And because he was, how you say, he's kind of like a mendicant, he didn't have any money. So he would beg, and he was given 500 Puranas. So what are Puranas? Is like a ancient coin. It's a coin. Anyway, this happened like what? How many Asamkaya Kalpas ago? So yeah. Anyway, so you can't really say how to say for sure what the details of the story actually are. Anyway, so what we're looking for, principle. Okay, don't get hung up on the details, or that there are various iterations of the story. Is the principle that matters. Okay, don't what do they say? Miss the forest for the trees, right? I think that's what they say. Okay, so he wanted to go to the royal city of Dipawati. Okay, because there was the universal king there, like a wheel turning king normally, but maybe not. I don't know what universal king here says means. Okay, so he went there, and the whole city was decked out. It was all decorated and all that. So he had he was wondering what's going on. Is there a festival? Or he says maybe. Okay, he says maybe the king, whose name was Asimat, heard that he was coming to the city, and because he had mastered the Devas, which is probably not an easy thing to do. So he thought maybe the festival is in his honor. Yeah. So he wants to ask someone, and then he saw this young girl. It says gracious, comely, sedate, modest, I think there's a typo there. It should be and modest and coy. So despite being a holy boy, I think the girl caught his eye. And what was she doing? She was carrying a pitcher of water and 7 lotuses. So he probably thought, okay, of all the people I can ask, why not I talk to her? So he asked her about what's going on in the city, and then the girl replied, says, oh, you're probably not from here because you don't know that the benefactor of the world has come to the town. And who is he? Dipankara, the guide of the world, is the Buddha. It says Asimat's glorious offspring. So this king had a son who eventually became the Buddha. So the king was very excited that the son was coming, and that's why the whole city was decorated in that way. So he wanted to make an offering, which is why he asked her, she says, how much do you pay for those lotuses? And she said, oh, for 500 Puranas. And she says the other 2, she got it from a friend. So he offered to purchase them for 5 of the lotuses with the 500 coins that he had. And then he said he intends to pay homage, he intends to worship and respect the Buddha. And he says that the girl can use the other 2 for herself. Then she replied, she says she would give him the 5 lotuses. Okay, so I guess she liked the sight of him as well. And so she wanted to strike a deal. Yes, she wanted to strike a deal with him. So she says, I'll give you the 5 lotuses on one condition, that you will take me to wife. That means she wants him to be her husband. Then wherever you may be reborn, I shall be your wife and you will be my husband. Okay? Now, what did he say? Then he said, well, I mean to conceive the thought of winning the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. So he was honest. He says, my aim is to become the Buddha, to achieve Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So he says, how can I, think of wanting to marry you? So she said, it doesn't matter, So it turns out she's not, she's not marrying him for love in a conventional sense, but she's marrying him because she can see that he's going to be very successful in his practice. And it's a way for her to also be successful in her practice. So she says, go ahead. I'm not going to, stop you from your vows. Then he thought about it and said, okay, she accepted the deal. And then let me see. Okay, so then the girl whose name is Prakriti, okay, then she recited some verses. She said, if you desire to honor the guide of the world, which is the Dipankara Buddha, with a charming bouquet of lotuses, take me to wife today, so shall I be constantly faithful in love. That means take care of him. But how you say, so it says, as the blossom, I'll just read, as the blossom of the glamorous fig tree, but rarely is found appearing in the world, young Brahman, so it is with the appearance of glorious Buddhas and Tathagatas. With this enchanting bouquet of lotuses, do you honor the Buddha, the driver of tameable men? It will be the means of enlightenment, and I shall everywhere be your wife. Okay, so she's going to write on, how you say, follow him on his path, and she gets to walk the path too. Now, if you look at the middle sentence, glamorous, that's a very funny word. I had to look it up, and the only reference I could find is like a cluster of, okay, I'm going to ask Leewen and Dr. Ho because they're both doctors. The only reference I could find is it refers to like a bunch of nerves or like blood vessels near the kidney or something. I don't think it's fair for me to ask them that question, but if they know, they can reply. Yeah. So I don't know why the author, a bunch of tubes near the kidney. Okay, yeah, there you go. I don't know why the author chose to describe the fig tree in that way, but apparently it's not an English thing. Yeah, so maybe it's the author's own idea. Okay. So Mega. Okay, Leewen say in the kidney called the glomerulus. Yeah, that's what Google told me as well. Thank you. Yeah, so both of them now, the Mega and what's her name, Prakriti, both very happy. Why? Not only were they going to make an offering to the Buddha, but they each found a partner on their path. They are known as, how you say, so their relationship would be a pure relationship, kind of like the Elder Master Hsien, who was forced to marry not just one, but two wives by his family. Why? Because his uncle's side of the family did not have any sons. So he was the only male heir. So the second wife was to produce an heir for that side of the family, but they had a secret pact that they will not, consummate their marriage, and eventually all three of them became monks and nuns. Yeah, so I guess this is the kind of relationship that Mega and what's her name again? Let me go back one slide. Where is it? Prakriti. Yeah, Prakriti. Okay, then what happened? Okay, then the Buddha came into the city with 80,000 monks, and the king was there. Okay, Yuchin said that the glamorous fig tree refers to a species in the mulberry family commonly known as the cluster fig. Oh, okay, so it is known as the glamorous fig tree. Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so it is a thing. All right, thank you, Dr. Ho. Okay, so now we had a part where everyone's waiting for the arrival of the Buddha, and the Buddha is finally here. Then, okay, here is a bit confusing. It says, then Magalayana, the young Brahman Megha. Apparently, his family name, his clan name is Magalayana. Okay, so not the same as Mahamagalayana, the monk who was under Shakyamuni Buddha, different, but same name. Okay, so he saw the Buddha coming. He could see the 32 marks of the Buddha. So that tells you that Megha wasn't an ordinary person. That means he had certain spiritual abilities to be able to see the Buddha's hallmarks. And then we have some nice praises, description of the Buddha, where the Buddha was like a dragon. His faculty turns inwards. It means when the Buddha is walking, he's looking steadily at the ground in front of him. He's not looking around, people shouting, Buddha, Buddha. He's not looking at everyone who's shouting his name. He's not waving his hand. He's not engaged. Basically, he's not engaging with the world. So it says a mind not turned to external things. He's in perfect control of himself. Okay. Now, we have more praises of the Buddha here. And it is said that any Buddha, as they walk, what happens is there are thousands of heavenly beings, thousands of devas, and they are sheltering the Buddha with their umbrellas or canopies, which are studded with the 7 precious stones. Yeah, and then not only that, chief of them is Lord Chakra, the king of the heaven of the 33, who also holds up a umbrella that is made in the heaven for the Buddha. Yeah, and then let me see. Then it says that when the Buddha walks, the earth heaves and subsides, and heaves with the movement of the Buddha due to his power. And it says when the Buddha puts his foot down, a marvelous noise can be heard, like trumpets, turbos, I don't know what turbos, and drums. And although there's no one beating them, but you can hear all these together with sounds of horns, cymbals, pipes. Yeah. And then in the city, all the jewels that were kept in boxes will start to shake and rattle. Yeah. Because why? The Buddha is the foremost jewel. So that's what the sutra says. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, going on. So Megha sees the Buddha and he makes a Bodhi resolve. He resolves upon Bodhi. He says it's taken a long time for the all-seeing one to appear in the world. It's the first time I'm not sure, I think it's the first time he's heard of the Buddha as well. So it takes a long time for Tathagatas to be born. After a long time too, my vow will be fulfilled and I shall become a Buddha. Of this, I have no doubt. So his vow is really, really strong. And what did he do when the Buddha came by? He took his 5 lotuses and he threw it over the Buddha, and it hovered. It was suspended above the Buddha's head. And then his future wife, Prakriti, also threw her 2 lotuses, and the 2 lotuses also remained suspended on top of the Buddha's head. And then it says that in the Mahavastu, it says that Buddhas convince people by 3 miracles or 3 abilities: the miracle of magic, the miracle of mind reading, and the miracle of instruction. So I think this was the miracle of magic. And then all the other flowers that the people threw to the Buddha all got suspended in the air as a canopy of flowers. And the Buddha did this to win power over men ready to be trained, and also to bring joy and gladness to the young Brahman Megha. Yeah. So it's not just like a collection of flowers. It says it was a canopy, lovely and fair to behold, with 4 props, 4 entrances and draped with festoons of fine cloth. Okay, now let me see what is next. So this made Mega really happy. Joy and gladness arose in him as he became aware of his sublime thought. So he probably felt, his body would probably be vibrating. There would definitely be chi coursing through his body. So he put his water pot on one side, he spread out his robe on the ground, and in this version, he bowed the feet of the Buddha and he wiped the soles of the Buddha's feet with his hair. Okay, so a slight difference in detail. And then, again, he made his vow. He said, may I too, in some future time, he was so inspired. He too wanted to become a Buddha, just like Dipankara Buddha in front of him. Okay. Then he said, so why? Okay, these are his vows. Okay, so that he can get the 32 marks of a great man. What does that mean? To get the 32 great marks, that means you perfect the paramitas. You, for eons and eons, you don't tell lies, you perfect generosity, you always treat people well, and that's how you get the 32 hallmarks. Then he also wanted the 18 special attributes of a Buddha, the Buddha's 10 powers, and the 4 grounds of confidence. And then so that he can teach the Dharma. And then, there's an error, spelling error there. Dipankara should be Dipankara. Then he got all these other vows. He wants to teach gods and men. And then so that he can lead others across the sea of suffering. Emancipated, may I emancipate others, that means free others. Comforted, when he finds comfort, he wants to comfort others. So look at him, he's making so many vows. It says, for the happiness and welfare of mankind, out of compassion for the world, for the sake of the great multitude, for the happiness and welfare of devas and men. So it's not about him. Okay, even if it is about him, it's about him so that he can help other people. All right. So the Buddha, Dipankara Buddha, he knows what is going on in Mega's heart. Okay, and he knows all the good roots that Mega has, because if you don't have good roots, you won't be able to think this way. When you see the Buddha, for example, when Dipankara Buddha entered the city, we only know of one young man who did this. No one else did. Okay, so what happened? Dipankara Buddha gave him a prediction. He says, you will become young Brahman in the future after an immeasurable, incalculable kalpa. All right. In Kapila Vastu, the city of the Shakyans, a Tathagata of the name of Shakyamuni, an Arahant, a perfect Buddha, etc., etc. So this is like the Lotus Sutra, where the Buddha confers predictions on his disciples. Well, he received this before. And if I'm not wrong, the Buddha didn't just receive one prediction. I think there are others as well. But this is the first time, I think, that he received a prediction. So Dipankara Buddha tells him, yes, you will get the 32 hallmarks of a great man. And the 80 minor characteristics. You will have the 18 special attributes of the Buddha, the 10 powers, and the 4 grounds of self-confidence, just as Mega had wished for himself. And so now the Buddha is just reinforcing the vows that that Mega had made. So what happened next? Immediately, the young Brahman Mega rose up in the air as high as a palm tree. He flew, and throwing his cloak over one shoulder, he probably exposed his right shoulder as a mark of respect. With joined hands outstretched, he bowed to Dipankara Buddha and the Sangha. And then he says, at that moment, the great earth trembled and shook violently 6 times. There are 6 ways in which the earth quakes. And And then all the spirits of the earth, the Bhumi Devas, the Devas of the earth, they shouted. It says, this young man has received a prediction from the Buddha that he will one day also become a Buddha. Okay, now these shouts or cries of the Bhumi Devas then was heard successively, and it was transferred all the way to Lord Brahma's heaven. Because why? Every level of the gods of the 6 desire heavens, they heard the shouts and the cries, and they too shouted and cried. Yeah, not cried, but how you say, announce. Yeah, cry as in announce. Yeah. They said that there was a radiant light that shone in the world. I can't believe what sutra. There are a few sutras that this happens. The Buddha will reveal a light. I think the Shurangama Sutra or the Lotus Sutra. And then this is a formula that's repeated. When the Buddha's light shines, what happens is the light reaches the entire cosmos, and it goes to places where it's absolutely dark, where there's the light of any other source does not shine at all. And when this light penetrates these places, the beings there suddenly realize that, they're not alone. There are actually other beings born here. Yeah. And because of the light, they feel joy and bliss. Yeah. And says even those who were born in the Avishi hell, which is the great hell, get to see the light. Yeah. And it says, wait, let me see. No, it says, even those reborn in the great hell obviously excelled the splendor of devas, of nagas, and of yakshas. The realms of Mara were eclipsed, rendered lustreless, gloomy, and joyless. They fell in fragments here for one cause. Cause is a measurement. I'm not sure what kind of measurement. Therefore, 2, 3, they fell in fragments for yojanas. That means Mara's retinue. Their standards too fell, and wicked Mara was unhappy, discomfited, remorseful, tortured by an inward sting. And then Mega sent, okay, so after all this had happened, and the Buddha went on probably to the palace with his father, Mega managed to get the 500 coins to the master, and then he told his good friend Megadatta everything that had happened. And then he, how to say, he said he made the vow for enlightenment. Okay. And then he tried to convince his friend Megadatta to go to the Buddha of Dipankara to become monks. And Megadatta gave an excuse. He said, well, I have not mastered the devas, so he cannot go. It was definitely an excuse. So the Mahavastu says, when the association of friendship is rudely shattered and destroyed, men become as driftwood which is scattered in pieces upon the great sea. So you lose the influence of a good friend, and then you kind of become lost. So, but that didn't happen to Mega. So why? Because he left the home life. He followed Dipankara Buddha. He became a monk. And then it says, why? It says people like Mega, because of their friendship with what is lovely. That means they are good roots that brings them close to the Dharma. It says, after winning the favor of and worshipping innumerable countless thousands of kotis of Buddhas and their companies of disciples, and after worshipping countless kotis of Nayutas or Prachika Buddhas, experience the happiness that is attainable by devas and men, until finally they awake to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. So probably the joy of the bliss of the first dhyana. Yeah. It says, for he who has listened to the driver of tameable men, in other words, the Buddha, prays that he may not again go and grasp at material form and the substratum of existence. That means of conditioned phenomena, of things that are impermanent. And however, Megadatta just said that, he looks down on his friend. And he says he's much too ready to bow his head. That means it's like, why are you following someone else? So he was not happy that his friend was going to join the Buddha. And someone like that, if since they can't tell what is wholesome, he ended up with unwholesome friends. And then he had an affair with another person's wife, and his mother, out of concern for him, tried to knock some sense into him, but he ended up murdering his own mother. Yeah. So that was the start of his downhill. So in the Mahavastu, it says, the impassioned man does not know moral good, nor does he see Dharma. When passion overcomes a man, he becomes blinded. So our love for the lady he was having an affair with, the married woman. So in his, craziness, he told the woman what he did, and that he loved her so much that he killed his mother, and that horrified the woman, and the woman broke up the relationship. But then he became infatuated with his stepmother instead. And I mean, it takes two, right, to tango. So she, equally as bad as him, told him, okay, go and kill your father, and then we can be husband and wife. So that's what he did. He murdered his own father. And because of that, he was shunned. People knew what was going on, and they shunned him. So he moved to a different place, thinking that people there, it's like a child. You move to a different place where people don't know what you have done, and then then he can live kind of like guilt-free, like ostrich sticking their head in the sand. And then who comes to that place? A monk who is used to receive alms from his parents. And the monk saw him there. And so when he saw the monk, he was, what's the feeling? He didn't want people to reveal his secret, so he didn't want the monk to cause him any troubles. What did he do? He murdered the monk. Okay, so I'm not sure, because the English is a bit clunky. I'm not sure if the monk was an arahant or the monk was with another monk who was an arahant. Okay, anyway, he murdered the monk who could have been an arahant, or he murdered the monk and an arahant. Okay, both also just equally bad. All right, but eventually, and it doesn't say how, he became a monk under the Buddha, Dipankara. Yeah, but he was not a good monk, and apparently he wounded the Buddha. First, he caused a schism in the Sangha, and then he actually wounded the Buddha to the point where it drew blood. Yeah. So it's because of this he was reborn in a great house, and no surprise there. And he spent a long time in the hells. And when he got out from the Avachi hell, he had to go through all the other great hells one by one, and even the 16 secondary ones. And it was only when his friend Mega became Shakyamuni Buddha. That's how long. Okay, when his friend became Shakyamuni Buddha, did he escape from the hell. But he was born as a fish. What fish? The fish from last week's story. His name is Timitimingila. Yeah, the big fish. Okay. So we skip the story to when he when he was going to swallow the boat with all the 500 people on it, and then they shouted out the Buddha's name. And when he heard the Buddha's name, he remembered the Buddha's name. Why? Because it was Mega, his friend, who told him about the Buddha Dipankara. So he had that memory, and he says the sound of the Buddha's name is not unavailing. That's the power of hearing the Buddha's name. So he thought to himself and say, another Buddha has now appeared in the world, and here he is. I don't think he knows at that time that the Buddha was his friend, Mega. And he says, and he's suffering. He's still suffering. And he remembers his that past life of his. And says, deeply moved, he shut his jaws again. And just because he had called to mind the Buddha's name, he died of hunger. I think what happened was he felt so ashamed, he repented, and he probably made a vow not to kill anymore, because it is said that as a result of that act, he was born as a human. And this is still during Shakyamuni Buddha's time. Yeah. And so his name is Dhammaruci, as we know from last week's story. And he became a monk when he was very young, I think about 7 years old. And he became an arhat thanks to the Buddha again. And so 3 times a day, it is said, 3 times a day, he will go to pay his respects to the Buddha. He'll go and worship the Buddha. And the Buddha always tell him, it's a long time, Dhammaruci. It is a very long time, Dhammaruci. Why? Because from that moment, they were friends until Shakyamuni Buddha. He was in the hells. Yeah. And I don't think he got to meet the Buddha. So for a very long time, whereas the Buddha's other disciples, a lot of them were reborn and were always close to the Buddha. And so he would reply, he said, just so Buddha. Has been a very long time. And this made all the monks very curious. And they were wondering why, I was like, okay, Alec has to leave early. They were wondering why would he 3 times a day go to the Buddha and they have this exchange. So the Buddha explained to them about their story, how they were together during the Dipankara Buddha's time, what happened to Dhammaruci. And then the Buddha concludes by saying, thus monks, not in vain is the sound of the Buddha's name. It persists until all ill ceases. That means, that's why in the sutras they say, when you hear the Buddha's name, the merit is immeasurable. It is because one day the results of hearing the Buddha's name will bear fruit. But of course, you don't want to be like Dhammaruci. You want to be someone who practices, so you don't have to go through all the hardship. All right. Okay. It is time to end our lecture today. Next week, we shall look at more the meaning of worshipping the Buddha. Okay. Before we transfer merit, does anyone have anything to bring up, to announce, to say, to share? Anyone? Okay, let's transfer merit. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth and the Lord of Death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease and all harmful states of mind. Until I realize Nibbana, in every kind of birth, may I have an upright mind with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dharma. The solitary Buddha is my noble Lord. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all this, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. Okay, just let me take my handbell. Let me change my sound to... Okay. All right. 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay everyone, Amitofo, and we'll see you next week.